Hi, everybody. My name's Scotty Carlisle, and this is the Move Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for not tuning in. But are you there? Anyway, so today, I always say that I have special guests, and today is definitely one of those days. I mean, I guess they're all special. That's why they're on the show. Otherwise, if I didn't think they were special, I wouldn't be talking to them. So, but today, Mr. Dan Carranza is here from Axo Nobel, and he has a very interesting story and background, and we're going to get into that. But either way, you know what? How about this? Where'd you come from, Dan? Because when I saw you, and you told me your background, it shocked me. I was surprised because
Sure.
Yeah. So give me a little bit, or give them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, I started. Where'd I come from? I came from Mexico. So my story actually starts there. I born and raised here in the States, and how I got here. Actually, the story that you had heard when we were together at the event that we did was really just telling the people of the opportunities I got that were created actually by my dad. And that whole story, my family was from Mexico, and
Where at in Mexico?
They were in Aguililla, Mexico.
Aguililla.
So it's in the state of Michoacan. And, my dad had to pivot very quickly. I know when he met my mom, they got married at a very young age. I think he was 18 or 19. She was 16 or 17 at the time. And my dad came from a very big family, 13 kids. So my grandmother was pregnant for about a 20-year span. And the unfortunate thing that happened, and the reason I share the story is because it's what created my opportunities here and what's brought me to where I'm at today, and obviously still growing. But my grandfather, who I never met, was taking my younger uncle, which was my dad's youngest sibling, second to youngest sibling, and they were at the store, and the store got held up, and as a result, my grandfather and I believe the store clerk got shot and murdered on the spot. So my dad was just recently married. At the time, he had an older brother. He had some older sisters, but they elected to split the family. My dad took half of the younger kids. My uncle took the other half. And from a care standpoint and helping my grandmother raise the family. So the two older brothers, which was my dad and my uncle, navigated their way up in through the United States. They did it legally. I know that there's work permits and visas that they had to go through to get there, and started taking whatever jobs or work they could take, and started sending money back to the family. And over the course of probably 3 to 4 years, they started bringing all their siblings up in through getting legalized and coming over to the U.S. and creating opportunities for the family. They nestled into Tijuana, and then slowly started working through getting everybody their legal papers to come into the States. And then the family started navigating through into L.A. and then ultimately into Redwood City in the Bay Area. And then ultimately, obviously, as you see with a lot of Mexican laborers, they'll find a lot of work in the fields, because not a lot of people want to do that hard work. So long story short, my family was down here. My parents raised us here in the States, and it just so happened that me and one of my brothers were born in Mexico. My family was already living here, so I'm actually a Mexican citizen, probably one of the only ones in my family. So my passport's still green, and still had stayed doing that. So fast forward to me growing up and seeing the work ethic and the things my dad did to create the opportunities here in the U.S. Not only for me, obviously for my siblings and his siblings, his family as well. Proud to see what happened with the younger four in his family. They all went through universities, college graduates, phenomenal. I mean, just to see that, knowing that they worked their heart and soul to put my aunts and my uncle through college, and they get their degrees and have professional careers, was really motivating for me at the time. And not only seeing them and their successes, also seeing what it took from my dad and my uncle's standpoint with the ownership they took in the family and the investment. Really, it's a massive sacrifice, and I always feel very grateful for that opportunity, because that's really what opened up the opportunities for me. So I always come from a place of gratitude in everything that I've done. So fast forward into my career into body shops and how I ended up there is actually a little funny, because my brothers had a body shop, and I worked there during high school, and absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, at the time we used to wet sand cars and sand cars in the 100-degree heat and the 30-degree cold, and in a cold shop with no heat. Just wasn't very fun. So spent about 2 years trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there. And again, for me, it was going out with my buddies, gas money at the time, and
where was that at?
This was in a small little city called Houston, California. Not Houston, Houston, California, which is right outside of Modesto, California, which is pretty much where I've grown up and lived almost my entire life. So during high school, did that job. An opportunity came up as a delivery driver. So I told my brothers, I'm out.
See ya.
I took a pay cut. I went to work for minimum wage for delivering parts, after school and during the summers and what have you. And fast forward to now, where it's my senior year in high school. I've got my plans. I'm thinking, okay, I got college. I'm going to do a couple years at JC, and then I want to go to Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, and that was the game plan. So forward to that summer, graduate high school, get going. I get a girlfriend. She ends up pregnant. There goes my college plans. So again, back to a pivot in the teens, kind of similar to my dad. Wasn't as dramatic, but it's life changing, and you grow up quick, and you've got to adapt. And I did, and did the responsible thing. So my son was born in 1991. Worked my absolute ass off, going to college, taking full units, working 45 hours a week. Weekends, all the things, right? Because you're trying to just college in itself, that's a full-time job. And at the same time, in the job that I had taken delivering parts, I actually had created a niche for myself, because I saw that it was a Napa Auto Parts store that sold paint. So all of a sudden, like, okay, I know the body shop business. So I started selling to not only my brothers, to other body shops in the general county, if you will, and grew the guy's book of business from nothing. I mean, $20,000 a year to $1 million+ a year business. At the time, that was quite a bit.
Wow.
In about a 2 to 3 year period of time.
What do you think gave you that ability to do that?
I think it's recognizing an opportunity that maybe my boss at the time I went to work for did. It was an untapped potential within his book of business, and knowing the body shop industry. Which is funny, because this industry has a tendency to, once you're sucked in, seems like we're in here forever for whatever reason, and this is no different, right? I looked to get out, and I got sucked back in, but starting to sell a little bit of things to them, a little bit of paint, gave me a little bit of confidence in going out to maybe they were a small body shop, that medium-sized shop, and then started to win there. And again, it was just, I think I tell my people, regardless of what you're selling, bottle of water, cell phones, whatever, it's relationship, right? So I think I got really good at relationship building, and I think it's just talking with people, commonality there, and there's a whole sales process behind that, obviously, but I think just being personable, talking with people, I think really started cracking open doors, and really it's bringing value, doing what you say you're going to do, and delivering on that. Pretty simple, right? So operating on a handshake and doing those things. And in my early career, I was very hesitant to go to that, what we consider an A-type shop. These are the dealership body shops, the big high production shops. I didn't have the product assortment that I believe I could compete, but I saw the bigger companies like PPG, and at the time was DuPont and Akzo Nobel. It's like, man, we've got to get one of those paint lines in our store so I could start to get into opening up those opportunities at the higher level, right? Didn't have that confidence yet. So there's a lot of things going on in my life. I'm raising, my girlfriend and I didn't get married, but we're raising a baby, going to college. And at that time, I knew, I was, as crazy as it sounds, I was going in to get a psych degree for whatever reason. But I shifted when I knew that I was starting to have some success in sales. So I shifted my general ed and some of the things I was taking specifically to business administration, marketing, all the different things that I knew could immediately impact what I was doing. Because I was obviously motivated by money to put food on the table. I had hard conversations with my boss about needing that raise, and I still remember I started with that guy. Minimum wage at the time was $3.35 an hour.
Wow. So
as I started to grow, my hourly wage went up. Then I'm making $8 or $9 an hour. Think about it. You're raising a kid. Think about that. And side hustles, detailing cars on Saturdays, and that was probably where I would win at a higher rate. So the job was the job, but I detail a car for $100, take me 3 or 4 hours, done. So I start building up a clientele there, and then as I started to grow a little bit of savings, if that's even possible, if you think about it, is I'd buy a car here or there, right? flip it, make some money. If I can make $1,000 or $500, quick little flip on a car, boom.
Yep.
So the side hustle, the regular job, the college, the kid, it's high pressure. So fast forward to I believe my son was 4. His mom and I broke up. And again, hustler mentality. Now all of a sudden I'm dealing with having to pay child support. So I moved back in with my parents, and my game plan was, okay, I'm going to save every nickel I can save. I want to get a house, right? So moved back in with my parents. Thank God for them, obviously, help. So hop back in with them. I think at the time I was 22. Yeah, I would have been 22, 23 years old, and started saving. Of course, doing the responsible thing, getting my son, paying the child support, doing the things that a dad should do, right? And was a responsible thing. And never was a deadbeat dad. And you hear a lot about that. But started saving up money. I got to the point where I sold my personal car because, again, I'm starting to create some credibility with my boss. I got a company truck. It's like, I don't need this car. So I sold it for $4,000, whatever, put it in the bank. Save another $4,000. I had a baseball card collection, sold it all off, $4,000. So all of a sudden I've got my savings up to $13,000-14,000. Started having the conversation, I'll buy my first house. So bought my first house at 22, right before I was 23. Used every nickel. I think I had an emergency savings of like $1,500. So at this point, I'm like, okay. How in the world am I going to make a mortgage that's $998? It's like, how am I going to do this? So, probably the best investment I ever made was buying that house, because from there, of course, coming from a hustler back mentality, is 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, got a room for my son. I got him every other weekend.
Rent it out. Got
a buddy that's paying rent over here. Hey, Scott, you want to come move? Absolutely. So, rented 2 of the rooms out. All of a sudden, like, okay, I can pay this house off a lot quicker. So as I had the extra cash, do a little bit extra on it, and best investment. 22 years old, bought my first house, and again, a lot of moving parts. So that catapulted me into having a conversation with my employer, and we had grown the book of business to where it's like, okay, hey, I want to open up a standalone paint store. So I'm either going to find an investor, or do you want to back me in it? So the answer was, I'm going to back you in it, and let's do it. And I said, but we need to talk to Major Paint Line. This company, Axo, Sickens, I want to have that, because I've got a plan to grow this business substantially, but we've got to be able to get into that higher type shop. And at the time, I didn't have a product to do that, but I was able to start getting into the higher type shops by selling them sandpaper and tape and some of the ancillary products, but still kept my eye on the Sickens company. And at the time, they were very territorial with their exclusivity in who distributed their products, which was great. So I didn't have an opportunity in Stanislaus County, which is where we operated. But the distributor at the time, once I started taking business from them with an inferior product because of relationship, I started to get their attention to where they came in and started to have a discussion like, hey, we're suffering with this distributor. We can't give you the rights in this county, but we can give it to you right outside the county. So what I did is went to my boss and said, okay, here's the game plan. He backed me into it. We went to the very next county, which literally was 10 miles away from where I wanted to be, and started plucking off business to the point where, and I hate to say we put people out of business, but that distributor at the time went out of business in a short amount of time. Then I had the rights for Stanislaus County. We moved in physically into Modesto, which is where I resided, where I bought that first house, and off to the races. So then in 1999, fast forward there, that's some chunk of time. No, I'm sorry, it was 1998. We signed a lease on a building where we opened up the first standalone Napa paint store. We had access to a few hard parts, but we were Napa automotive paint. And it was kind of cool concept at the time. We had a couple little articles and stuff that came out, but kind of neat to see that we took that business from nothing to there. And then we opened up a second location in Fresno, California.
On the second location, it was you and the
me and my business partner.
Who had backed you.
But at that point in time, he was sitting back, and I'm looking at the body of work of what I've done to get there. And it was one thing to have an investor, but then we opened up that second location. It's another thing to have an investor that it just sits back and collects, and there wasn't a said, he's taking the paycheck but not putting in the effort. Right. So we had that tough conversation, and it was to the point where he didn't want to sell. I don't blame him. I wouldn't have wanted to sell either if I was in his shoes, but I'm over here doing all the grunt work and not now look, had he wanted to be a part of it and help the growth, and I'm not working these self-employed long hours, as all that are self-employed knows everything that it takes. We had the tough conversation about, look, either you buy me out or I want to buy you out. And it was expensive because I did have an option I could have just walked away and just opened it up from the ground up. But again, doing the right thing.
Yeah, there's an integrity factor there.
1,000%. And that's what was driving the conversations is, look, I mean, we got to come to an agreement. We finally came to an agreement. It took about 18 months and some attorney fees and some tough conversations, but we did it. And I was able to buy him out. And lo and behold, grew the business. And we grew to 4 locations. And then in the journey of growth, I took on a new business partner because he had a presence up in Northern California. So we opened a location way up in Redding and then way up in Eureka. And we actually tried together to open up a location in Southern California. We ended up shutting it down because you almost got to be there to run it. So it was one of those things. And the reason I took on the business partner because...
Was this Napa Paint?
No, by this time we've already parted ways with Napa.
Okay.
We're operating separate. The reason I took him on as a partner is the financial wherewithal is going to take to open up more locations. I wanted to grow, but obviously still needing to get finances, and we were in alignment. We both worked the business together. It was a 50-50, all hands on deck, and I love that. And that's the only reason I took it. I wouldn't have taken a silent partner. I wasn't going to do that. But fast forward to, we get to the point where the body shop environment is getting extremely competitive, very cutthroat, and the margins just weren't there. So we again, we're in 2012 and we're having a conversation. Either you buy me out or I buy you out
for different reasons.
Again, the margins. Look, there's not enough meat on the bone for both of us. So let's just do whatever we think is the best. He didn't want to buy me out. I honestly didn't want it. So I told him, we had already been solicited by a couple of the bigger consolidator companies that were buying paint stores, Finish Master at the time and LKQ. We talked to both of them. And finally, we ended up working out a deal that worked for LKQ, and we ended up selling the business. But going back to my first partner, one of the smartest things that I believe that I did, and I still, knock on wood, I still believe it's one of the smartest things I did, is in building the relationships with people. As you know, everything we do is people business. And I had an opportunity after I'd bought him out to do a lease purchase option to buy that building that we were in. So that opportunity was brought to me by the owner of that real estate, and really liked the guy. We hit it off. He saw I brought value to his business. He said, hey, I got an opportunity for you. If you want to do this, here's how it's structured. It's a lease option. You've got 3 years on your lease. We go into a lease purchase option at the end of 3 years. If you decide you want to buy it, but we set the price now. And I'm thinking, how can we set the price now on something? We don't know what's going to happen.
Right. And you've never done anything like that before.
And I hadn't done anything like that at the time. And at that time, I had just bought, this would have been in 98. I had just bought a fixer, because I would still flip cars and what have you. And I bought an NSX. Remember the NSXs?
Oh, yeah.
Cool-ass cars back then. This was a 99 or whatever it was. It was newer, but it had been hit on the front. So I had one of my shops fix it, and by this time, mind you, I've got cash, I've got liquidity to do some stuff. So the car was like $38,000, and it cost me $3 or $4 to repair it. Whatever it was hit in the front. So I had to decide, okay, do I take Mike up on the offer to buy the building, or I'm single and I just ride this bad boy, just have a great time. And again, common sense, being the responsible individual. Sold the car, sold her $55,000, gave him the $50,000, and crossed my fingers that the building was at least appraised in 3 years. It did appraise, and again, it was probably one of the best moves I made because it was 15,000 square feet. We occupied 6 of it, so I had clients renting and all that. Fast forward, we sold the business, so LKQ, who we sold to, I was a beneficiary of being their landlord, obviously. Sold my business to them, but it was landlord to them. But I knew there was a couple years left on the lease. We moved to San Diego in 2016, and knowing that lease was up in like 18, I ended up selling that building also in 2016 to fund the house that we bought in San Diego. So
Nice.
so that kind of comes full circle. But when we sold to LKQ was Akzo Nobel's largest customer. And I had the opportunity to stay on and run the book of business, and through networking and meeting some of the people in LKQ, I got promoted pretty quickly to where I was running the West region on their paint distribution side, which is from Texas left all the way to the U.S. So I did that gig for a while
At LKQ.
at LKQ, right? And back in I believe it was 2017. They restructured their organization, so they did away with the larger, if you will, paint regions. And I was given the opportunities. I just moved to San Diego, and they said, look, do you want Southern California, or do you want to have this geography that encompassed Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and I believe New Mexico? And I said, I want the one to the right of California. And I remember my boss looking at me like, well, you just moved to Southern California. Why wouldn't you want SoCal?
Right, that's
what
what
I said, well, I don't want all the traffic. And here's what I'll tell you. The market there is probably a $20, $25 million market. This one is a 6, but I can turn that 6 into 25 in a short amount of time. The ceiling is very high, to where over here it's kind of messy, the traffic. I already had this team, the cadence, because they're already reporting to me. I know what I'm going to get there, and it's a high growth story, so I'm going to ride that one. So I opted for that one. I was unfortunate because I was a regional manager at the time, so I had the opportunity to pick. So chose that one. Didn't grow it to 25, but we did grow it to about 20. And a buddy of mine, friend of mine, he was actually one of my managers that managed our account when I was an independent distributor, called me, and he says, hey, I want to talk to you. We've got this opportunity running our industrial business for Finish Master. And they had ties to Akzo. They weren't deep in with Akzo, so it was me going into something crazy that I was like, man, I don't even know industrial. I know body shops, but sure, it never hurts to listen. So I sat and listened to what they were needing, and they were needing a director for the western, or the left half of the U.S. to run their industrial business. So at this point in time, this is now we're fast forward into 2019. We started having these discussions. So first thing is I go to my old boss. I said, because he's a buddy of mine too. I said, hey, I don't want to leave LKQ, but I'm not lazy, and this job I'm doing, we've grown it to X. I'm maxing bonus the last 3 or 4 years. I'm getting kind of bored. I'm too smart. I want to contribute more. And if I was lazy, I could have sat at the beach 3 days and worked 2 under the radar. Nobody would have known anything. I could have done. So it was to the point where it's like I'm not challenged. So I talked to him. I said, look, give me some advice. How do I navigate through this? And LKQ being a monster parts company says, look, call the RVP. So I did, and I had that conversation. I said, look, what's Dan's next step? What's it look like for you? He says, well, actually, I'll promote you tomorrow. He says, but I need you to move into the region that he covered, which was out of California. I said,
ain't gonna happen.
Not happening, because if it was about the money, what my buddy, he introduced me to the people that were on the board, and I met with them, and I literally had a job offer like the next. We met on a Friday. I had a job offer on Tuesday, and then when I looked at the numbers, like if it was about the money, I would have signed right there, not even asked questions. It wasn't about the money for me though. It was about contributing to the greater good and growing my career. And I really love the body shop space. So, that wasn't how I felt in 1988 when I left. Gave me a great career. So fast forward, there was nothing there for me at LKQ at the point in time because they worked through budgets. Budgets are done in the fall. I wasn't going to move into the parts. I wasn't going to move out of California. So I took the job and did the leap of faith. And I remember telling my wife, if anything, I could always go back into paint because it's what I know. I'm going to at least sharpen that side of my sword and knowledge. And I accepted, and I started March 16th of 2020. And do you remember what happened St. Patrick's of 2020?
Is that COVID?
California shut the hell down. So I'm thinking, what
Damn it.
the frick did I do? And I'm telling you, that first week, I'm force ranking employees to close branches to lay people off. That's my work.
That is not what you were prepared for.
Absolutely not what I was prepared for. So we navigate through, and look, it was actually an opportune time because they were looking to build that industrial business, and it was almost like working on building a business from the ground up. So we worked on a lot of infrastructure that wasn't there, compensation plans. We did a lot of work that summer, But it was just that. It was a lot of project management, a lot of in the trenches work that was exhausting. And again, 10, 12-hour days, and it, as crazy as it sounds, the team meetings, and it was actual work. Plus, we were, what were those little placards that we had to put on our car? We were, the businesses that were needed.
Oh yeah,
you were allowed to operate.
Yeah, what were they called? Your
essential worker.
Yeah,
essential worker. So that summer, not only am I helping blueprint this and working through the strategies, I'm also delivering products. I'm the most expensive paint delivery driver. I was $335 then. I was not $335 in 2020. I'll tell you that. But it was a learning experience, and once California started opening up a little bit, and I was able to start to rehire my team, and I did. I started rehiring the team members and starting to get some traction and started to understand that segment of the business that I didn't know. Off to the races, and we start going. Phone rings in December, and literally I remember because I was on a Teams call with my existing boss and my old boss from LKQ. I always take his call. He called me. He's like, shoot. So I said, hey, hold on 1 second. Stepped outside. Hey, what's going on? So my old boss calls me and he's all, hey, he says, your name got brought up at a meeting last week, and not by me. He says, I like you, but it wasn't by me. It was by my boss, and he wants to talk to you. I said, what about? He says, he's got an opportunity for you. Okay. Again, always hold an ear. It's worth listening, right? Somebody who's got something to say. So I spoke to the individual who's a high senior leader within LKQ and says, hey, we have an opportunity nationally running our diagnostics business, which was a small business that LKQ had acquired that does calibrations, diagnostics, scanning, and all that. We want to talk to you about it. So I said, look, I'd love to listen to more. And again, it's about relationship at this point in time. I felt I built such a good rapport with those folks in the 9 or 10 years I was there, and I'm fans of all of them. So I sat and I listened, and again, I have a job offer letter in front of me the next day.
Nice.
At that time, I didn't think twice because it got me back into being back in the body shops, which is what this was for. It wasn't back in paint, it was back in the body shops. So we worked out a deal that worked really well, and fast forward, ran that company all of 2021, and then my phone starts ringing again. These were my old colleagues that were Axo Nobel employees, and like, hey, this position for Axo just came up. Are you interested in talking about it? So well, let me learn more. And I said, I'm not looking. I've got a really good, because I did. I made sure this next time it was gonna be a really good deal for me, and it was. And I wasn't even thinking about leaving. But then here comes Axo Nobel again, company I love, and I love them for a reason, and we'll get into the reason I care. I'm passionate about what this organization and what they do. Here I go, and it's like, all right, I'm going to throw my name in the hat. I'm not looking, so I'll say that up front. And I still remember our senior director that runs the Americas. I told him, I said, great to meet you. I'm not looking, but I want to understand more. I'd be a fool not to listen to what the job entails. And he even questions, well, you got a national position now. Why would you take a West regional? I said, well, there's twofold. And I told him the story about, my enamorment with Axo and, actually having a seat at the table to make some of the decisions that I think were important with this organization and that really helped me build my book of business. So I was coming from a place of, hey, if I've got a seat at the table to influence some things in this organization that can help others, and that's what I've built my career upon, I want to at least listen to what the opportunity is. So went through the interview process. It was interesting because they give you a case study, and you don't know anything else other than the case study they give you. You've got to do your presentation. You build your own PowerPoint, you get just enough, and you got to present to a panel. I believe it was six colleagues of different business units and whatever. and I put it together.
That's a good way to do it.
I put it together. I answered the questions, but the crazy part is it felt natural to me because I was in my lane. I was into where I know I can help, I know I can deliver, I know I can contribute, and it was pretty easy. So fast forward to, again, job offer letter, had to have a tough conversation, and I almost if I felt dirty. I mean, if you think about me being self-employed from 1997, and I still include my career with LKQ as still being self-employed because I was still running that book of business and really having one, if you want to count LKQ, 2 jobs in 20 plus years. I hadn't jumped around. So
right.
Literally I jumped 3 jobs in 20 months. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, you're moving.
So, but I feel like I'm settled to where I'm at. And again, it came from a place of being able to have a seat at the table, make decisions. You know, I don't call the shots, but at least my opinion can be heard. And that's important to me. And really boils down to the body shop customer, that I love the relationships that we have there because they're really strong. As you know, you've been around it. But number 2, it's a people business. And number 3 is, how can I contribute to not only help their business succeed, how can I contribute to the people that I'm leading, self-develop them, because I want them to be great. And that's what I mean when I get up in the morning. How do I make myself better? But how do I inspire them to be a better version? Because my message when I was hired and I had the group and I'm leading, about 60 people now. I said my message is twofold. Number 1 is that I can help you guys self-develop. I want you guys to get better at your craft because I want you guys to have fun at your job and I want you guys to maximize your bonus. And I said number 2, I want you guys to have fun when you come to work. So let's create an environment together, and that's really the premise of how I built my business, and it's the premise of how I'm operating now. It's the premise of how I'll operate 10 years from now. So getting better. How can I help my team that I'm leading get better? I mean, I should be training them to take my job, right? And how can they instill that mentality, that mindset into what they do with their day-to-day operations when they're selling to customers or bringing value? Because like I told my team and our senior leaders and even our distributor partners, like, look, there's going to come a day where every single major distributor has every single paint line. And the majors in the U.S. are Axo, PPG, Axalta, BASF, Sherwin-Williams, 5, right? Mm-hmm. So there's going to come a day when we have to operate, and I'm gonna ring this bell really loud at my planning meeting for next year. We've got to be in the mindset of everybody's got our brands. Everybody's got them. Even though they don't, we need to think about they do, what's going to make us different to deliver when we're out selling. And it's relationship driven, it's value added driven. Because if it's transactional, the other 4 play in that transactional space,
cut you out.
We've got an opportunity there to really crack this thing open. And we have the smallest market share, but we have the best clients. And that's been my whole thing is I don't want to be the biggest revenue wise or volume wise. I want to be the best. So if we go into a market, especially where I can have my input on it, I want to be the best. So if we go into a market, I want people to talk about us. I want to have the best clientele because those are the best shops, right? We're never going to touch that 2,000 plus MSO. We might. I don't want it. I don't care for it. I want to help the customers that have the 3 and 4 shops get to 5 and 6, or those that have 10. How do they want to get to 15 or 20? That's our sweet spot. And even the single independent. How do we get them better? How do we deliver the value-added tools that make them better at their craft? And again, it starts with our people. The people I'm leading first is it starts with them, and then we get that part right. The rest of it, I think, will take care of itself.
So my question is, when do you think the attitude of I'm going to try to help others, when do you think that you adopted that? Because so what I've seen
5 years old.
At 5, okay.
Yep. And I'll tell you where.
All right, let's hear it.
You want to hear it or you want to ask me the next question?
No, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to know. Because I have, a couple things swimming in my head about that.
I say 5 because in kindergarten, or preschool even, the teachers would always come to me. We had migrant kids that were in the school, would ask for me to translate. So being bilingual.
So I know you were born in Mexico. When did you move over here?
I was brought,
you were born
few days.
Okay.
Yeah, my family already lived here.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So, preschool, kindergarten, I would be the translator for the migrant kids that were in my classes and, communication and teaching and all that. And then I think I was coming from a place of helping. I think in junior high, I was elected to some sort of leadership camp. And I still remember, they hand-selected people from the different counties, and it was a leaders camp. So I was the one out of my school that was chosen, and I was class president for, 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman in high school. So I always had a leadership mentality, and I think that's pretty much it. But I will attribute that work ethic my parents instilled has pretty much been my guidance even today, right? Mm-hmm. But 5 years old is starting to help at the school and doing that type of stuff. So I was never the hall monitor that told on kids. I like to have fun. So
yeah, you're the one that they'd be telling on.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. But I think that a lot of people that have actually achieved a certain level of success, everybody that's all men, most women, want to be the big man on campus at some point, right? There's an image thing, and they want to be successful, and what success means to them is, drive a nice car, have a nice house, get, stuff kind of thing, right? But I think a lot of people are confused because they believe that their success is going to be handed to them based on their attributes of I am smart, handsome, have money, that kind of thing. But what I've found over and over and over, the people that have actually really achieved a level of success higher than most, their attitude is your attitude. It's how can I help? It's not about me. It's about the value that I can create for the people that I can touch, right?
Sure.
And so I'm going to make myself better so I can make you better. And exactly what you said of how you're going to help them personal develop, right? That's a huge thing. You want them to have fun at their job, and I think that that mentality translates.
You get that part right in any business, that's going to take care of home base and the rest, right? So yeah, that's number one, right? And it's interesting you say that too, because don't get me wrong, I had the mindset as a young hustler back in that NSX days when I struggled. If I'm going to buy the building, or I'm going to keep the NSX. I knew I want to be worth $1 million by the time I'm 30. I did it, right? I did it, and I still will tell you, and I think you heard a little bit about this, is I went on to, the buildings, the businesses, all the stuff. I mean, I had now granted it was on paper, I was holding $10 million in assets when the market crashed.
Wow.
3 commercial buildings, 5 rental houses, all the stuff. So talk about, again, a pivot point. What do you do? Where you at? How do you navigate?
Stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, real quick, at this point, I'm freshly married. I'm thinking, okay, so we're gonna short sell. We're gonna get rid of the dead, the ones that are dead weight. But the commercial property stayed intact. Our principal residence stayed intact. So the important thing. So you got to pivot. And again, I think that for me to say that it was a lot of work to get there to book that many assets, but it was also, it could be gone tomorrow, right? So I was fortunate that I was able to retain some of the real estate and some of the things, but others that I personally know were not so lucky. I mean, that was a tough.
But you did have to get rid of some of your properties.
Oh, we had to strip, absolutely.
So
yes.
What was the mentality? What was your decision process?
Well, it was all at that point in time. You're thinking, how do I protect the people that I'm employing? First and foremost, and my family. That's how I figured it out. And having that mindset, like the stuff that you can short sell, negotiating with the banks and get. I wanted less debt on paper, right? As much as it is nice to have a $10 million, it's not net, right? So there's probably $4 million net on paper, but you remember those heydays in real estate. I mean, I bought my buddy's ranch. His grandpa wanted to sell him. He didn't want it. I bought it. I held it for 2 months and made $120,000. Wow. We bought a lot next door to our house that we built. My business partner and I did. We jumped on it. We made one payment, and we made $150,000 selling it. So it was just crazy.
Those kind of investments.
It was crazy times. Yeah. So looking back, is I was also a lot more aggressive. I was in my 30s, so you think about that, and I think of my mindset now, and I'm thinking old Daniel. I'm thinking my family, and what am I going to leave back, and monetary now. My mindset is really not monetary. Is what impression can I leave for my kids and my nieces and nephews, and show them kind of what my parents showed me is the work ethic, having the right mindset. Because really, what we do, you could get up in the morning and have a mindset it's going to be a shitty day, or you can have a mindset it's going to be a great day. So I always try to get the other side. So that's really what I want to leave behind. Is it has nothing to do with money, but I like money. I think we all like money. We work to make money, but people are all, would you want to retire? Retirement for me, I mean, I live in San Diego. I go to the beach often. I think that I would be really bored, and we've talked about it. I mean, so I don't see myself, slowing down anytime soon. I actually see myself accelerating, which I think is fun. So,
nice. And
I get more out of helping people because, like I said, I'm good with the way I'll end up. I'm fine. It's how do we help others and educate and train, and it's cool to see success stories. And trust me, I love to see successes. You and I know a lot of the same people that have a hell of a big businesses and make a ton of money. And hey, props to them. I don't want to be there. I don't want that type of chaos. But hey, if I hit the lottery, I probably would still work and still have probably work less, but
yeah, a little less. Travel a little more.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, but I do get to see some really cool places and meet some really, really neat people.
So again, mindset is so important, and I do think the way that you've achieved what you have is because of the mindset. Because, I envision two things. You have somebody that's angry or pissed off or let's say just in a bad mood. And to get them to do something, right, takes a lot more work than if you have somebody that's skipping up and down the hallways, right? And they're like, yeah, zippity doo, right? And then you ask them, hey,
what's wrong with this guy?
yeah. But you ask that guy, do a cartwheel, and they'll do a cartwheel, right? So the restraint is a lot less, and then the people that have, and then it creates energy, and then that energy will help accelerate to wherever you're going.
You just said the magic word, because that's a place you think about when we do stuff, and you think about, we talked about some of the public speaking and some of the stuff. You could see the difference between low energy and high energy, and that's a difference. So you get the guy that's up there or girl, and it's just redundant, and it's all, and you're trying not to fall asleep, or you get the guy that's actually got engagement and is talking and having a conversation. You can tell people's energy, and I think that's important with everything that we do, not just public speaking. It's engagement. It's all the things, right? Is contributing to conversations, So that's important. Yeah. Energy is huge.
But then the trick is how to keep that energy, because I've struggled in, like, for example, in my studio, and I have the exact situation that I would ever want. Like, I can't imagine wanting anything more than what I have right now. But even with that, and I feel like I'm happy, with sometimes I get the doldrums and I feel myself kind of deflating, right? And so I have to step outside to do things to, like, enliven my energy so I can, because that also, it spawns creativity.
Sure.
And so if I don't have energy, I know that my creativity is depleted, and so I'm always trying to look for things on the daily to keep my energy up. And so my question is, how do you think that you can that you have a prolonged, anybody can have good energy for a day, sure, right? Or you get some good news, yippee.
Oh, trust me, I hit the wall around 3 o'clock. But no, I see it in general. For me, it starts with, and by no means is it about being a bodybuilder or anything else. I try to exercise in the morning because that creates a walk, a run. Probably more a walk. I'm not a runner, but
I can relate to that.
30 minutes of exercise, some sort of movement. I think that's hugely important for everybody. But look, don't get me wrong. I think for us as leaders in business, you have a pool of people that we don't get the 100% human capital out of them. And those are going to be the lower type energies. Now, we've had some things internally with us that we've sniffed out some of that, and those people are no longer here for a reason, right? We want people that want to contribute, but I also think as leaders, you have to make sure that if you're not getting the energy from your people, you've got to create it and be a conduit to that energy, right? Because if you're one-dimensional and you're not bringing, whether it's development activities, feedback, the different things that an individual that goes to work punches the clock, they're just going to be robots, right? So I think for me, my energy comes from not only self-development, is what do I need to do as a leader, because I got a big responsibility to get those people to deliver on what we need them to deliver. So that's kind of been boiling back down to your mindset. Is it going to be, you got the negative Nancy's, that, and they come from that. They come from that mindset of I can't, I won't, and I listen to podcasts. I did away with social media about 5 years ago, and instead of that, I've substituted for either listening to a podcast, listen to something Tony Robbins related, and I still love, and I share it with my team. He said something huge for me is success leaves clues. We don't have to reinvent a lot of the successes. You take a look at people successful in whatever segment it is, whether it's a ball player, whether it's a businessman, businesswoman, very successful company. What have they done? What's been their historical things that they've done? And you study that. And you take a look at that. Where does that replicate in a success story, right? Everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different path, but success leaves clues. So I always think about that, and I tell my team, think about that. Look internally in the mirror for us. Who are those high performers? What did they do different this year that they kicked ass that some of the lower performers didn't? Success leaves clues. So
that's definitely going to make it to the reels. That was a good one. And I think a lot of people, and again, that's part of why I'm doing this too, because there are a lot of searchers out there. There are a lot of people that are stuck in whatever way, and they're looking for little they're looking for little snippets that can help them drive farther and push a little bit,
Sure.
to the next level. And so that's a good one. We're definitely going to cut that one out.
Well, and look,
Everybody
at
can
the end of the
use
day,
that.
I think if we could do one thing, and we've got friends at All Magic, if we can do one thing to help one individual in one place make a difference in their mindset, I love that. I absolutely love that. So when I operate, and whether it's business or whatever, I always think through, can I make a difference? Did I make a difference? That's why I always ask for feedback. We'll do a class. Hey, what'd you think? Was there something? Oh, yeah, I love that. I love to hear that we were able to, and look, I'm not the one delivering it. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the room, but what I will tell you is I will be the guy that will be the most resourceful to pull everything that's needed to deliver to you the best partnership. So that's how we sell on that premise of honesty and transparency. There's no magic bullets to what we do. And again, I don't want to be the biggest, with what I'm doing. I want to be the best. And those are the things that I think make a difference when people see that you're real. You do want to help them. It's not about the deal. It's not about the sale. It's about making a difference in their business. Because again, the rest will take care of itself. We educate those people in that shop through my people, and we produce more vehicles. Guess what? My revenue starts to go up.
Yeah.
So and it goes back to helping.
Well, and again, I've been in different industries, but being, so close in the body shop industry and meeting the professionals from AXO. Now, everybody, a lot of it is individual driven.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, right. But before I met you, like with Paul and, and just the level of, and Justin, the level of professionalism, and they're people, right?
Sure.
And so I developed a relationship with them, and joke around and stuff, and then I went to the first NAPG, which is would you call it a flagship event?
It's a national performance group of the best that are our existing book of business, our clients, and this thing goes back as far as I can remember, and since I've had ties to AXO in '96, I can probably tell you I've missed 4.
Oh, wow.
4. So these are people who actually go work on their business. They roll up their sleeves. It's not a rah-rah event. Sure, there's industry information as far as what's going on in the marketplace, relevant information that they can help on their book of business. That's day 1. But day 2 and day 3, these people are working on their business. They're bringing in financials. They're crunching numbers. They're working on process. It's probably more work there than it is working in their own office. So there's accountability. But again, it's iron sharpens iron, right? If they can take 1 or 2 nuggets of information back to their business and deploy it, and then layer in our business services in addition to that, it's a win-win. So going back to the substitution of social media and some of the things that, back to Tony Robbins, and he's got this thing he talks about, limiting beliefs. I can't, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too whatever. That's a limiting belief. And I think that once you get past that mindset of I can, and have that mindset, I will, and then execute, you're going to win.
So what's your favorite speaker okay, I understand Tony Robbins, but do you have anything that you've listened to recently that...
I can't tell you anything that I've listened to recently, but I will tell you something that I actually just read, and I'm about to, I already unveiled it to my team, and it's a book that I read, and it's called One Word, and I'll have to look up the author for you, but one
That's
word.
the name of the book, One Word?
One word that'll change your life, and let me tell you, I'll tell you the exact author, because I literally was making sure my team had their read done, because I made them read it, because we've got a call on it tomorrow. Let me find it here, and I'll share with you the author. And I actually sent it to Rafi and Tina.
How did it come into your vision?
Do you remember when we did the event at All Magic? I had a little bag of books, and I was telling their team about self-development, and I was telling about 12 books that I was reading.
Yes.
That's number 2 of 12. That's number 3 of 12 that I've already checked off the list. And the nice thing about it, there it is. The nice thing about it is...
One Word That Will Change Your Life, expanded edition, John Gordon.
Yeah,
Dan Britton and Jimmy Page.
Yep.
And Jimmy Page, huh?
Not the... So a funny story about that is we read it, and I was telling my wife, over coffee. I said, you know what? I'm going to make my team read this because it's really good. And it's about picking one word and how you're going to operate the next year. So I challenge my team. I want you guys to read the book. I want you guys to pick your one word and let's have a conversation about it, because once I share my word, I'm going to put that sucker right in the middle, and I want to put all of your words around it. So I literally want it in an 8x10, and that's how we're going to operate as a team. So when we have our team meetings, we're going to talk about our words, and let's make sure that we're operating in that fashion. So I struggle between a couple different words because the aggressive sales part of me is like I had chosen, and I'll share with you what mine was. So was disruptive. I want to just get disruptive with business, and but then I thought, okay, how's that going to apply to my family life and home? I thought, okay, I better peel this back. So then I did some soul searching, and that's what the book asks you to do, just kind of think through, and we don't have to rush it. So I came up with the word inspire. So my word for 2024 is inspire. I'll share it with my team tomorrow, and I'm curious and excited to hear what they're gonna say, because we already had a discussion about it, and I let them each pick their one word without them reading the book. And I said, once you read the book, it may stay the same as what you told me in Chicago. Yeah. Or it may change. I don't know. So we're going to have a discussion about it tomorrow. But I chose Inspire because I thought we've got such an opportunity to embark on growth with the existing company. I want to make sure I'm continuing to inspire my kids, my family, whether they're older or younger than me. So I want to make sure I continue to do that. Inspire for myself to continue to get better. So I chose that word. But I'll take it a step further. Axel Nobel, several years back, 20 plus, go back 20, 25 years, had a program called the Benevolence Program. And the Benevolence Program was you take an auto shop like our buddies have a repair facility, and throughout the course of the year, they would fix a car that was either salvaged or damaged, and they'd work on it. So they would donate the labor. Enterprise would donate gas cards. We'd donate the paint. The LKQs or the parts companies would donate parts. It's a charitable donation of a vehicle in the community, and you would give it away. You'd call the media, you'd call the press. Think about that for the shop from a marketing standpoint.
That's all. Yeah,
you're helping the community. So I was telling my wife, and she's going to call me crazy because I said the story, but I said, so my words inspire, and then fast forward to last Sunday, we were at the gym. And we chose to walk, so we live close to the gym. We walked to the gym, and I usually Sundays, because if we don't do church in person, we'll do it online. I was in the steam room. A lot of times I'll kick off. You do your own little meditation, or whatever. And I came out. I told my wife, I said, I got my word. It's inspire. Okay, good. So so I was just kind of sharing this, and she read it, and she had it too. I said, so when we do this event next year, I'm going to make sure that we latch on to. The place we go to is called The Rock, but it's a former Chargers player, Miles McPherson, that has it and oversees it, and it's his church. I think he's got 7 of them. And so I'm going to ask Miles and Travis to come in and do a thing about, because I've never been a big religion guy. I mean, I believe, I'm just never been, But the one thing I do know is that church really does stuff in the community. You see them feeding people, you see them doing outreach programs, and it's a do something church. So I love that about them, because a lot of times you go to church like, here comes the guy rolling. Yeah, here comes this guy rolling in his new Mercedes Benz. Where do you think that some of that money's going? So it's a do something church. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go talk to them about coming in, speaking about their practices in the community, but being a do something industry, and I want to reintroduce the benevolence program with our shops at that event. And she says, really? I said, yeah, really. I said, because we've got a platform where if we can have 1 or 2 of these shops take that and give 1 or 2 cars away, multiply it. You saw, you weren't at my event last year, but we'll do it again this year. You saw what kind of impact can that have in a community, in a family, change the trajectory of somebody's life, right? Single mom, kid going to college, so inspire. So the story was, I went and got my hair cut. I came home, and something told me, and I told Erica, I said, where's that copy of that book? She said, I'm finishing reading it. So I ran, because we have a bookstore right by our house. I ran, got them a book, got them a copy of it, ran home, rinsed off my hair. I didn't even shower. I'm still in gym clothes. I'm sweaty, dirty. Rinsed off my hair, threw a t-shirt on. She said, where are you going? I said, I'll be right back. Going to the church. I'm going to try to catch Travis or Miles before they start the next service. So jumped in my car. She said, you're nuts. Why don't you do this? So there's time this way. See ya. Something told me to go. So off I go. So I go and I catch. So this is the pastor, And I ran in and I said, Pastor Travis, so we had a conversation about the benevolence program. And so I gave him his copy. We talked a little about the book. So I'm in talks with them right now with their outreach program to help. And again, I don't need another thing on my plate. I'm busy enough, but it's one of those things where, hey, if I can do something to help somebody, here we go. Even if it's one family, but hopefully this will roll out into next year where we can help others. And hey, if our existing book of business adopts that, maybe does one a year, think about that.
Yeah, and you're bridging the gap. You're bridging the gap from your client to their client, right? And you are basically facilitating that. So you're taking your attitude of how can I help people, and then okay, now how can I help body shops, and then exactly what you're doing, you're literally bridging the gap, and that fits into the exact same thing, your business, your life model almost.
Sure.
That's sure.
Well, and again, this has nothing to do with Dan. This has to do with if we can impact and help, great. And I think that we can. And I think that I want to ride the opportunity of having the platform to talk to so many business leaders that we deal with day in and day out to really have an impact in their communities. And I think we could be onto something here to reinvigorate shops to have that mindset of giving something back to their communities. I think it'd be big.
Yeah. So. Me and you, I think we're cut from the same cloth. I have the same vision, because I feel like the secret to success and to like the internal success, the real success, not the bank account, not the not the images, but the actual feeling inside is helping others.
It's that fulfillment.
It's the fulfillment.
That's right. Yep.
And like I had a conversation last night, because I also do Toastmasters. I'm active in that. Yeah. And there are a lot of people that have a fear of speaking.
Sure.
And one of the key factors in overcoming that fear is the way that you perceive how you're being heard. And what happens is, if you're thinking about, I could misstate this, or I'm going to stutter, or my hair's messed up. I don't have that problem. But if there's a stain on my shirt, right? It's me. You're thinking about, it's an internal thing, and then your attention is focused inward. But the point of you speaking is the impact that you make out there. And if you can twist the way that you think instead of me and how I look and just focus on what is the message that I got to get across to that group, then it takes so much pressure off of you, and it allows your mind to just go like this, and then the energy that you have, instead of it being directed towards you, which does make you stutter, it does make you look silly, it does make you trip up.
Sure.
If you can take that energy and then just point it out that way, it is a game changer. And sure. I think and I'm doing little things on how I can help people, like with the speaking, because I've been in a lot of different situations sure. where real awkward moments, and then I figured out, oh shit, I didn't die. And here's the thing, it's okay. If you're telling the transparent truth about something or the topic, it's even easier. Exactly. So. Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing. And again, whoever's listening, somebody out there, so the word inspire, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, is that you will inspire others. I'm going to make sure of it on how I can, right? That's the same thing. But so last question, because I know you got stuff to do. And again, I appreciate you coming out here and spending the time. This is awesome. That's awesome. Great. It's good. But on a deeper note, you picked the word inspire, and I think it's a very important word. But what do you think is the basis of inspiration? And I've thought about that, because, I do, it's an important thing, in that how are you going to create inspiration? So I would probably answer it in two words. I think, inspire is a big word, but if you can get somebody to act or think differently, but ultimately it's funny because this ties into your move campaign. Get somebody to move and make an action, positive action, and I think that for me would be how you inspire them, and it's got to be a mindset. So if I say something, or I can prove something, or I give you the documentation on something and inspire you to make a change and move and get up off your ass and do something. That's what we do, and it all ties into the energy,
the wanting to do something, right? You got to have a want internally, and for those that don't, hopefully I can inspire them to at least start flickering the match to get some sort of movement going.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the thing, just to recap, you have experienced loss, you've experienced, failed relationship, you had to figure out how, with the child support and how to do all that, and then when you were successful and you had assets, then the market came crashing down, so you were forced to face some ugly truths of life, right? So
Sure.
So some people look at others that have succeeded and then they like to discount. Oh, they were a silver spoon, or
right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think that true inspiration comes from a true story. And it stems from loss, like the phoenix. Things get burnt down in our life, but we have the choice, and I also think choice is an important word too, because we can choose to take a high road. We can, like this morning, I get out, so I have a sauna, right, and I work out, and then I go sit in the sauna, and then I do like a little cold plunge in my pool.
Mm-hmm.
But today I went out there and I kind of dried off first, and then I was like, I don't want to get into the pool, right? Because it's cold and very uncomfortable. And but something in the back of my mind, it was just like, no, move. And even though my mind was saying I don't want to do it, my body just went into the pool, right? Because I've kind of trained myself to do that. But that thought was, I don't want to do this, But again, then it just I think the practice and the will pushed me through, and again, so there's something about the will, right? So our thoughts, I think our thoughts, I thought a thought, but then when I thought to think, I didn't. Anyway, you can get mixed up there, right? And the more that you spend time in your mind, the easier it is to talk yourself out of something. And I think that when you move, if that, just focus on that one word, you force yourself to take action against reason. And your will and reason, I think, sometimes sit on opposite sides of the fence. But we have the choice to allow will to open the door, right? And go through when reason is kind of standing behind it and like holding the door shut. And so, right. But I think that is, and what gives the will the power is when you're not thinking of yourself. When you are in your own mind, you're kind of impeding your progress because you're thinking, think this and that, and but I can't do this, and the whole mindset stuff. But if you can differentiate, is this a thought or is this an action? And when you decide to take action, and I think that's why they say you can act yourself to new thinking, but you can't think yourself to new acting.
Sure.
So, and the key is movement.
And people are afraid, right? But if you take a look at, and people have a different definition of success, but whatever the success is, whatever the definition is for everybody, right? Or it's probably different for everybody, is this probably a mound of failure and you're sitting on top of that's going to define that success, right? So, I mean, ask me in my 30s, success to me was monetary. Of course I loved helping people, but also now it's not as important. Now my success is my relationships. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful family, beautiful kids, beautiful granddaughter. That's success, right? When you look back and say, wow, this is and if you can impact them to be good humans, it's going. And again, I've been fortunate in the big family that we have is to be able to take care of mom and dad. So now we moved them back down to San Diego, and so it's been a blessing, and coming from that place of gratitude of where the opportunities I was given and giving back to them and being able to do that is great. So
and again, I think it is when you're caring for others, and it gives you that that runway, and your word coming back full circle, the whole inspire thing is that I think that it comes from a place of failure in a way.
Oh, sure.
Right? And then because if you don't have, like any good story, man, if you don't have a good conflict, you don't have a good story. You got to have conflict. You got to have the downs, because that's what's going to propel you for the ups.
Right.
And so, but again, I just wanted to bring that because I started kind of rambling for a little bit. But the point is that you have a track record of being in an uncomfortable situation, but you chose to push through, and I think that has to do with taking action, which is related to your will. And so that's kind of where I kind of went off on a tangent. I do that sometimes, but
we all do.
Yeah, right. But it's an important distinction, because move. That's the whole concept of why I'm here, why I'm talking to you, because I want other people to hear your story, and the story comes from the failures, right? The triumphs come from the tribulations, and so
absolutely.
So people, and I know that there are people listening to this right now, or that will be listening to this, that are struggling, that have maybe lost their house. Maybe they lost their job and they're trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do right now, because they got a mortgage. They got 6 kids, or maybe even just 1 kid. They have, a car payment. Maybe they haven't made their car. They're facing adversity. And I just want to throw it out there that you keep a good attitude and you want to try to help others, and then you move, and this is a temporary situation.
Absolutely.
Real success is around the corner.
And you have to create action, to your point. You can't sit there, woe is me. You have to act. You have to, literally your back's got to be on the wall, or back to the wall. You've got to come out, and it boils down to mindset. We could have a mindset of woe is me, or what am I going to do about it, and get out there and act and start doing some things. If you don't have a job, start sending out the resumes, 15, 20 a day. Get out there, start knocking on doors, and create your own opportunity, because that's the one thing we can control is what we do, how we act, what our mindset is, and how we react to adversity. So we can control that. A lot of other stuff we can't, but we can control that one thing. That'll make a difference.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think we hit the spot for this. I think we touched on all the important components of what I wanted to get out of this. Yeah. Again, we started to talk about AXO, and I've touched on some other companies, as far as like interactions and what they bring to the table, but I really haven't had there hasn't been anybody even similar to AXO with his. Now I know they do certain events and everything, but the way that AXO creates on the NAPG, the different resources, and bringing peers to talk to, other, what are your problems? And then, oh wait, how did you figure that out? Oh, that's good. And so taking it back home and using it is from the interactions with the other body shops. And what you guys do is you facilitate that platform for body shops to talk to each other, share ideas, and I think that is why I have so much respect for AXO, and that when we're doing this interview, your whole story, your whole attitude, every word that comes out of your mouth is literally congruent with what AXO is doing. And so I think it's just a good marriage, and I think you're in a good spot right now, and I'm real curious to see where that's going to end up.
I appreciate you having me, and I think that one thing to add to the national meetings is we layer in all the regions continuing education. And those classes, I'm telling you, this industry has such a thirst for education. It's ridiculous. Every class that we put on is overfilled. But we're going to continue to bring it. There's a story about an infinite player and a finite player, right? So I believe through AXO Nobel, we're in the infinite game, which never ends. You got to continue to educate and continue to get better. And then there's a finite game, like, hey, we had the best sales this year, and that's it. Okay. We're going to exhaust those guys and those competitors, because we're going to continually be getting better at our craft, to where the others are looking at it as a shorter term finite game versus the one we're playing, which is continual. So coming from that place.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about this? Let's say there is somebody that I told, that is struggling in a particular area of their life right now, and they're trying to figure out what it is. If you had, 2 sentences, 3 sentences to that person, what would you say?
I would say look in the mirror and focus on the things that you can control. And we hit on those: your mindset, your attitude, and action.
I'm going to end it on that, man.
Yeah.
So for all of you people listening, thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you got some nugget of wisdom out of this. I know I did, and thank you, and we'll see you, or we'll hear you next time, or you'll hear us next time. So take care.
Thanks for having me.